The most recent photos of Lauren Sanchez. It's strange how different she looks from how she used to look. Jeff Bezos is leaving, and no one saw it coming after the shocking surgery his fiancée Lauren Sanchez had. There was a strange story being told behind the perfect pictures and fancy yachts that reporters began to pick up on. There were still smiles, but the mood had changed. Insiders are now telling us things that are very different from the fairy tale we were told. Everything changed because of one choice? Was this the moment when they stopped being quiet? It's not just media rumors. There's more to it than that. If what people are saying is true, the wedding might not be the only thing that's on hold. Everyone was mesmerized by the beautiful proposal. When Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez became famous as a couple for the first time, it wasn't just for tabloids to write about. It made a lot of news. One is the most famous wealthy businessman in the world, and the other is a famous broadcaster and helicopter pilot. Suddenly, their names are linked. From the beginning, their partnership was like a modern fairy tale, but with billionaires instead of elves. There were yacht parties, trips to Europe, red carpet performances, and a clear bond between them that seemed to block out the noise around them. By the time they got engaged, the couple had gone from being in the news every once in a while to being a full-on public attraction. To get married, they went to Jeff's $500 million super yacht Kuru, which has sails, rare woods, and handmade sculptures. When Lauren was first seen wearing her huge diamond heart ring, it wasn't long before rumors turned into facts. It was said to be worth more than $2.05 million. No one could miss the news that they were engaged. In the months that followed, they made a lot of public visits that made them look even more like a power couple. The two of them went to the Met Gala together, posed for pictures with other famous people at fundraisers with lots of stars, and smiled from the balconies of Italian homes. Their bodies moved in a way that showed love and coordination. In many ways, it was like they had grown into the same orbit and were automatically drawn to each other in public. Jeff had always kept his personal life mostly to himself around Lauren, but he seemed more chill and even fun when he was with her. He said in interviews that she made his life happier and more balanced. She, on the other hand, seemed to enjoy her new role as his girlfriend and as a well-known figure in high society. She was involved in fashion, charity work, and even space projects with Blue Origin. They were building something together in public and without any shame. By the beginning of 2025, everyone was focused on one question in particular: where and when would the wedding take place? Soon it was said that it would happen in Venice, Italy, and a possible date was set for late June. Also, it wasn't going to be a one-day event. Insiders say it will last several days and include floating events, galas with candles, and small dinners with views of the Grand Canal. The guest list, which included tech billionaires, royalty, celebrities, and important people from other countries. Every part of it felt like a movie, and everyone was interested in the third act. But around the same time, something else started to happen. As the wedding date got closer and Lauren started to show up in public more often, small conversations began to form online. First, people noticed small changes. Then they noticed bigger changes. Her face looked tighter and more molded, and her style had changed. Fans looked at old pictures and compared the star's jawlines, cheeks, and lips. Commentators and experts both had their say. All of that didn't really matter, though. The couple kept quiet and smiled and looked calm when they went to events. There were no signs of trouble. In fact, everything seemed to be going as planned. But around this time in early spring, people who knew the pair started to say something different. There were whispers that were quickly drowned out by the joy of the wedding, but they were still there. Was everything really as picture-perfect as it looked, or was there something going on in the background? It was getting close to Venice time. Still, as the ceremony got closer and the lights got brighter, it wasn't just excitement that was growing, it was tense. It was quiet and hard to see at first, but it was growing. The kind of stress that starts out small and grows like a cracking glass that you don't see until it goes all the way through. The relatively small change that made news. Lauren Sanchez has always been known for being sure of herself and having a lot of charm. She was in Jeff Bezos' world long before she met him. The way she walked made it look like she had spent decades being in front of cameras, speakers, and flashing lights. But things have changed in the last few months, especially when she went to Cannes in May 2025. Not just the clothes or the way they stand. People saw that she looked completely different. It began quietly, some comments on the web, here and there, mostly hidden under the rush of praise that usually comes after a public appearance. But as the pictures got around, people started making side-by-side comparisons. Users on Reddit and Instagram posted pictures of themselves before and after the change, and they looked at every detail. The lines around her neck were sharper, her cheeks were higher, and her lips were fuller than they were a year ago. At first glance, there wasn't much of a change, but the more you looked, the clearer it became. Speculation then broke out in a big way. On celebrity blogs and YouTube channels, cosmetic surgeons, some who spoke out and others who stayed quiet, had their say. They talked about possible treatments for the eyes, cheek implants, lip fillers, facelifts, and even Botox. Some said the makeup was done well and the lighting was good. Some people said it was more than that. The conversations going on around Lauren got louder while she stayed quiet. It wasn't the first time that a popular figure had changed in a way that could be seen. Hollywood is used to changing things, and beauty standards are always changing too. Lauren's story was different though, because of when it happened and how people felt about it. I wasn't just interested. That made some people feel let down. They knew Lauren from her early days as a radio host and helicopter pilot, describing her as natural and beautiful. Fans left a lot of worried and unclear comments in the areas for fans. One person wrote that she didn't need to change anything. Someone else said she now looks like someone else. At Cannes, everyone could see how things had changed. Lauren looked so sleek and sure of herself while posing in a sparkling dress that it was almost unreal. Even though the cameras couldn't get enough of her, a lot of people were still uncomfortable. It wasn't just the way she looked. It was the feeling that something important had changed, not just how it looked. Her pictures were in the news by the end of the week, but not because of what she was wearing or who she was with. They were in the news because of the growing discussion about how she looked. Commentators on many entertainment shows are careful, using general terms like her changing look or a possible change in how she sees beauty. But it was clear what it meant. A lot of people remember Lauren Sanchez as someone else. It also started a bigger conversation, not just about plastic surgery, but also about being real, finding your own identity, and what it means to change so widely before such a big personal event. Some people strongly defended her. A lot of people said that Lauren has always had choices and that no one should tell a woman how to act, especially when the whole world is watching. They told people that both beauty and people change over time. They were kind sounds, but they couldn't stop what was already happening. Where solution should have been, there was a never-ending swirl of questions, rumors, and half-truths. It was even more difficult because there was no sound. Jeff and Lauren both didn't say anything about the rumors. There have been no interviews, comments, or even attempts to change the subject. They have been quiet, which in the world of famous couples often says more than words. As everyone waited for the wedding in Venice, they talked about more than just the dress, the place, and the guests. They were interested in what had changed and why. There was also a new question starting to come to the top. What had Jeff seen behind closed doors if the public saw a change? A lot of talk going on behind closed doors in the inner group. For months, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez looked like they had always been together. At high-class events, they went hand in hand, smiled for the cameras, and looked at each other during talks. Everything made it look like nothing could break their bond. Several close friends and family of the couple who did not want to be named said that a very different story was going on behind the scenes that never made the news. An event that didn't begin at Cannes but much earlier, when trust began to slowly fade below the surface. One old friend who did not want to be named said that the mood in their close group was tense before the spring of 2025. No one could say for sure what caused the break, but many people did notice small changes in behavior. Some said Lauren was more guarded, even around people she had known for a long time. It wasn't a big problem when Jeff started assigning more of his Blue Origin work and staying away from social events he used to be excited about, but there was a slow withdrawal. Not yelling, but being quiet is often the first sign of real mental distance. The reports began to spread around the time that Lauren had what some people think were cosmetic procedures. Even though most people only saw the end result, people close to the couple said Jeff had no idea how big the changes would be. A European tabloid quoted a source who said that he had only been told about a small refresh before a busy season of travel and press. But what he saw afterward is said to have shocked him. Once more, none of this has been proven. Nothing is written down or said directly, only whispers are heard. But many news sites started to report the same thing from insiders who did not want to be named. It was a surprise to him. After that, there were supposedly a number of private fights. It wasn't loud or in public, but it hurt. One source even said Jeff had told a close friend and then asked, "Why didn't she just tell me?" It's still not clear if the fight was really about the surgery or about something else. When fame and money put pressure on relationships, they often get messed up. There's the real life you live together and the show everyone expects you to put on. There can be more dissonance than words when those two worlds don't match up. Some news stories said Jeff was having a hard time making peace with the woman he fell in love with and the woman who is now standing next to him. They are still loving and loyal, but they are different in some way. Others say it wasn't about looks at all, but a change in meaning. According to these reports, the surgery became the center of other problems that had been going on for a while. Value differences, trouble communicating, and unspoken questions about the life they were about to make official in front of the for her part. Lauren never said anything about the reports. It didn't look like anything had changed when she went out in public with her usual ease. Some people said she knew, though. A longtime hairdresser is said to have heard Lauren and her team talking, and she said, "He'll get used to it." It's still not clear whether that comment was meant to be funny or serious. It is important to note that some people in Jeff's own group have stayed fiercely loyal to Lauren. They say that the story being told isn't true and that Jeff has always valued her freedom and never tried to control her choices. But even those who defended them say that something changed between them, real, but subtle and hard to describe. Those small changes became more important as the wedding date got closer. At events, people smiled more tightly. The breaks in talk should be a little longer. The people around them were still sure they were going toward the altar, but they were starting to wonder about something else. Were they walking with each other anymore? The farewell, a hot mic didn't pick up the words and there was no news release. It wasn't said anything. Still, the word is getting around like crazy. Reports from people close to the situation, which have not been proven, say that Jeff Bezos is saying goodbye after his fiancée's shocking surgery situation. He's leaving her, or more specifically, the version of her he thought he knew, not with big announcements or shows of emotion, but in a quieter, more personal way. It's not the wedding plans in Venice that he's leaving behind, at least not publicly. Several European news sites have started to report rumors that something serious happened soon after Lauren Sanchez's much-talked about transformation. And while none of the big US news outlets have talked about it, smaller sources have said that there was a very private breaking point behind the scenes that ended with tears. One of these reports said that Jeff was caught telling a longtime friend something private in a private setting, with his voice lowered and his face hard to read. It is said that he only said 5 words. "She told me lies." The words were not yelled. They weren't exciting. But if they are true, they make me feel very betrayed. It's impossible to say for sure if that lie was about the surgery itself, its goal, or the emotional distance it made. But people who know him say it was enough to really shake him. Friends and family of the couple say the moment didn't happen during a fight or even after the stunt. Jeff didn't know he was looking at the woman he loved until later, when they were alone. But something about her seemed off. One source said it wasn't about beauty. It had to do with the truth. And all of a sudden, that wasn't clear. Someone else, who is thought to be a former member of their home staff, saw Jeff sitting alone on the deck of Kourou for hours after one of their recent events abroad. The only thing he could hear was the water. There was no one else around, not even a phone. The same person said he looked clearly scared and even teary-eyed. There was no proof of what he had been told or what had been said before the silence, but the time of the event matched when rumors of stress started to spread in the media. The wedding has not been officially cancelled, The plans have not been changed, and there has been no last-minute chaos. Still, something is different about the air around them. Some guests who were planning to go to Venice have been told to wait for more information, which has made rumors even stronger. Some even turned down interviews, saying that it wasn't their job to say what was going on with them. Jeff's team hasn't said anything, neither confirming nor denying what was said. And Lauren, she keeps posting beautiful pictures from designer meetings and getting ready for events, never implying that things are going badly. If something is coming apart, it's happening in secret. But the meanings are there, hidden between the lines. The person who used to say that Lauren was his heart has been surprisingly detached. People who know him well say that meetings have been cancelled, projects have been pushed back, and his normal confidence has been replaced by long pauses and quiet thought. He isn't really walking away from her, but he may have already begun to mentally let go. It's even scarier that this goodbye, if that's what it is, isn't loud. It's simple, quiet, and heartbreaking in how it is. It's not like the goodbyes you see in movies. It's the kind where people stop being friendly, making plans, and smiling when they answer. They're leaving not because they want to, but because something inside them already has. And if these rumors are even half true, the wedding in Venice might not be the story. The quiet that came before it could be the story. The effects, the distance, the weight, and the questions. The days after Lauren Sanchez's show at Cannes and the private moment that allegedly made Jeff Bezos shaken. It got quieter and heavy all at the same time. No one spoke out in public. There were no pictures of moving trucks, and no planes were cancelled. However, the mood around the couple changed, especially in places where people were excited about the wedding before. What had seemed like a worldwide countdown to a big party was now more like a game of waiting, with lots of quiet and unclear reassurances. Guests who were invited to the event in Venice say that some of them have recently been given what one person called soft deferrals. Instead of "mark your calendar," people started saying things like "details to follow" or "we're adjusting the timeline slightly." Officially, it's not a cancellation, but it feels like things are moving less quickly, and no one is explaining why. Some people who know Jeff say that he has stopped planning everything. He used to be very involved in the event, going over guest lists, planning how the yacht would work, and choosing wine pairings. Now he's allegedly leaving Lauren and her team to handle it on their own. Sources say he's still supposed to be in Venice, but the mood there is different. People who have seen him lately say he is unusually quiet, distracted, and sometimes tired. Lauren, meanwhile, keeps giving off an air of confidence. Her social media posts are still carefully chosen and positive. With not a single pause, they showed fittings, gala practices, and even short travel shots. People who are close to her say the smile feels different, though. A friend is said to have told someone that she's been trying not to show it, but it's making her feel bad. It's making her feel bad. She hasn't said anything about the rumors yet, and no one in her inner group has denied the growing claims of emotional distance. People close to Jeff are less subtle but still careful. A friend of Bezos told a French news outlet that the businessman is thinking about something very personal. They only said that he's not angry, just sad in a way that words can't really fix. Some people say he's been spending more time on projects by himself, updates on Blue Origin, talks for charity work, and even late-night brainstorming sessions with long-time advisors that have nothing to do with the wedding. So much is unknown, and no one has been brave enough to ask the question in public. Will there even be a wedding? The places in Venice are still booked, the catering contracts haven't been cancelled, and the plans for high-class transportation are still officially in place. That doesn't mean, though, that the event will go exactly as planned. Some people close to the couple think it will happen, but on a smaller scale. Others think it could turn into a private union with no cameras present. There will be no show, and some people think it might not happen at all. Then there's the issue of trust, not in the tabloid sense, but in the more sensitive, deeply human way that breaks down when people can't to each other. Several people have said that the surgery, and more importantly, the mystery surrounding it, may have set off something in Jeff that had been building up for months. They say it wasn't about how it looked. It was about being honest, about how they felt left out of an important or emotional decision. And when that honesty starts to fade, It doesn't matter how fancy the setting is or how nice the guests are. There isn't a clear statement, an official delay or proof of split. But right now there is an emotional fog that has taken the place of certainty with doubt, warmth with formality, and noise with quiet. It's clear that something has changed between them, no matter what happens next. Whether it's only temporary or for good, that change now hangs over everything they were going to enjoy. What will happen next? The doubts that still follow this relationship. As June goes on, and Venice gets ready for what was once thought to be the biggest wedding of the year, the question isn't just will Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez say, "I do." It's about whether they're still going the same way. While the couple is seen in fancy boats and custom gowns, and their photos and smiles are edited, there is a quiet worry that no one close to them is willing to say out loud. Since there have been no formal statements, the silence has become the most important part of the story. Friends who used to go on and on about the wedding now try to stay away from details. Their engagement used to be full of happy tones, but now they're using neutral language like they're working things out and taking up space. Not yet. It's not a breakup. The world thought it was watching a fairy tale, but it's not what it used to be. There are still questions. Jeff is said to have had an emotional response. Was it a breaking point or just a shock that will pass? Was Lauren's change just a personal choice that wasn't understood, or did it cause a greater problem in a relationship that was already stressed? If the wedding does happen, will it be the next step in their journey, or an attempt to get back what they've already lost? It's still possible that the party in Venice will go off as planned. Rich, stylish, and surrounded by friends who don't want to ask the tough questions. But I don't think the ritual will have the same weight it did in the past, even if everything goes smoothly. Even among the closest guests, there is now a layer of doubt that can't be seen. The kind you don't talk about in public but can feel in every pause, look, and wait. Jeff is being quiet for now. People around the world are still waiting for Lauren to post. It could just be a phase or a personal storm that they'll both get through. On the other hand, there could be a crack in the base that an event can't really fix. One thing is for sure, the story has changed no matter what happens. The last part hasn't been shown to the public yet. That leaves us with one more question. If they've already said goodbye, will they ever say it out loud? Post your thoughts below.